This production is sponsored by The Good Estate Agent. With an average turnaround time of 3 weeks, if you want your house sold quickly, then contact Stefan today on 01942 356 577. Quote Super League Raw for 33% off. So welcome once again, Captain's Run. Where's that week gone? Here we are, Thursday evening, 6 o'clock, an hour and a half to go until Sky's pre-match build-up to tonight's big game between Wakefield and Hull KR. And of course, as always, myself and Steph are here for the Captain's Run. Good afternoon, Steph.
Good afternoon, mate. You okay?
Absolutely, mate. Round 2 upon us. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. Of course, a lot of narrative last week in terms of some of the wins that took place. Some catching people by surprise. Some of the big hitters, no disrespect to Lee were outstanding against Wigan. Castleford against KR, but people would have expected the champions and KR to have gone better. That's harsh on Wigan and Lee, I think, but certainly KR. But yeah. FC, can they do it again? Catalan, can they be as bad at Warrington? Loads of narrative. That's where we're going today as we go through this. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, my mate. Let's get straight into it. Here we go. Captain's Run time. Bit of a new take. Wakey taking on Hull KR tonight at 7:30 p.m. We've delved into the history of this, which is interesting. 10-7 Super League history at Bellevue, which is interesting. And then in the last 5 games, Wakey have won 3 out of the last 5, which is interesting. So it tells you that Wakey got some good form here going into this game, KR. The record books are where they're at. Of course, both of these two teams winning in round number 1. The try scored, very, very similar. The defence, tackle efficiency, very, very similar. Conversions, slightly in favour of Wakey. And, of course, the penalty count also in the favour of Wakey. I mean, if Wakey fans weren't aware of that, Steph, that should give them some grounds for optimism this evening.
Yeah, I mean, it's how many years is that over?
Super League. So that's just at 12 years, yeah, just at Wakey, yeah.
Yeah, so that just shows, I mean, how far KR have come in the recent years. They weren't always, up there, and Wakefield have had some decent squads, haven't they, over the course of Super League. So, but I think for me, this is an absolute mouth-watering task. I'm so looking forward to watching this one tonight, based on last week's results, with Hull KR quite not being where we expected them to be, and obviously Wakefield putting a great performance in at Leeds. You'd think that this first home game at Bellevue is going to be rampacked, and the atmosphere is going to be absolutely fantastic, which you never know could have an impact on this game.
Absolutely. I think that it's going to be a really good crowd there at Wakey tonight. And we know that KR will travel in numbers as well. So the atmosphere should be white hot. And like I say, Wakey, lots to be happy about with regards to this game. Now, of course, the squads have been announced. We'll get into the squads in a minute. We have pre-recorded this because yours truly is in the Lake District as you're watching this. So a bit of a spoiler alert there. But we're still going to give it our best shot in terms of building up to this weekend's action. Dal Powell and Elliot Minchella have both been talking ahead of this one, so let's see what they've had to say.
For the character and personality of a team, the sort of comes in loads of different layers. But I think the personality of the team, the character traits of being able to really enjoy each other's company, but then go and work hard and dig in for each other. Rugby league is one of those sports that you've got to have a great mix of character traits and toughness, resilience, but being able to have a really good time together as well. And you sort of get a real feel for the group. I felt it a lot last year, but this is a different challenge, isn't it? Super League is a different challenge for us. Feel like we've recruited really well, and we've recruited for great people as well as great players. So, I just feel like the whole package has got a really good feel about it. We're not getting too carried away. 100%, it's one game that we've won there. But you know when a group's in a good place, and and he's ready for whatever he's thrown at it. Now I feel like we are. And we'll find out a little bit more about the team on Thursday night, 100%. You know, OK are going to come. I mean, they're full strength, aren't they? So, you know, they'll be feeling pretty confident about coming to us. But for us, is to just focus on ourselves, do what we know we do well, we play our game. And we're going to need to defend well. We know that, you know, there's some significant challenges in this OKR team that we're going to need to deal with.
Look, Castleford were really good. I think that they're much improved from the week before against Bradford. You know, they're really well coached. Obviously, I've worked with Danny Maguire and Brett Delaney as well, and I know how good of coaches they are. And, you know, them boys came out firing and they were really good, and take nothing away from them. You know, they performed really well. So they made it very hard for us. But yeah, we can be better at things we can control, and that's looking after the ball, discipline, like I said, errors, and makes life easy for ourselves in the games. But yeah, look, the main thing is we got 2 points, and we're pleased with that, and we're on to the next one.
On to the next one this evening. These are the two 21-man squads going into this evening's game. The big surprise for me, Steph, no Matty Russell in the press conference. No Darryl Powell didn't seem to say there was an injury, just that, you know, at his age and the fact that he put in a big shift at the weekend against Leeds, that he was pretty much, it seemed like he was resting. That's very odd when you consider how well Matty Russell played in that game against Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some conversations about him, you know, in terms of how well he did play and what a professional he's been over the years. You know, he's done a great job wherever he's been. But Lachlan Walmsley's had a great pre-season, is what I would say with that one. And obviously he wasn't in the squad last week. So maybe a bit of rotation going in there. Maybe he's just put up a little knock and he doesn't want to say that. But I think Lachlan's going to be just as effective for Wakefield on that wing as Matty Russell was.
Well, of course, he had a great game, didn't he, in the Challenge Cup the week before? So you know, we know that Lachlan's going to be chomping at the bit to play in this one tonight. But yeah, quite surprising. I thought McMeekin played well last week. He had a good captain's knock, 49 tackles, 107 metres from Mike. He had a good game in there. There's enough quality in this team for Wakey to trouble last year's grand finalist, and Willie Peters able to pick an unchanged 21-man squad. That's pleasing, isn't it, if you're Willie Peters?
100%, yeah. I mean, there'll be a lot that people that Hull want to write from last week in terms of there was quite a few not up to standard displays, I'd say, from Hull. A few of their players absolutely performed, but the good side from that is, from Willie's point of view, there's plenty that they can fix, and I'm sure they've been working hard on training this week to get those right, because we all know how dangerous this Hull side can be when it's firing.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, the fact that, you know, Burgess and Sue have been now mixed up. You know, Burgess now on the left, Hiku on the right. I think that gives them a bit of potency on both sides, and of course Tom Davis is no slouch. It's going to, you know, I think, you know, as average, and I will say for their standards, they were average. I mean, and that's taking nothing away from Castleford. Castleford played really, really well. But I think balance-wise, I think there's some good partnerships there in the back line that they can build upon. And actually, you know, a lot of people were concerned about Ray Hargreaves. I thought he came through that first one without any real controversy, looked pretty handy. And he'll just get better as the rounds go on, won't he?
Yeah, definitely. And then forwards do tend to take a bit of time when they are coming into Super League. It's different from the NRL, but I thought he had a solid debut there for them. I think Mikey Lewis is probably the one who I'd say needs to maybe up his game a little bit. He was nowhere near, I don't think, where we know he can be at. But he knows that himself, and he acknowledged that in his interview afterwards. And, you know, to come up with that clutch drop goal at the end just shows his character, because you could tell in his interview it looked like he was getting quite emotional with the way he played, which we know he's an emotional, wear his heart on his sleeve kind of guy. So he'll be, I think that's probably my biggest concern for Wakefield, is that he will be looking for a much better performance this week. And if he fires, we all know how dangerous he can be.
It's mad that we're saying that he had an average game, but that bullet pass to Burgess was a thing of beauty. He slotted over the drop goal, as you say. It just goes to show how far he's come over the last 2 years. That's an average performance from Mike.
That's the standard. I mean, if you man of steel, they're the standards you get held to, isn't it? You know, and yeah, I don't think he had a bad game. I just think by his own standards, particularly the knock on his own line. I mean, credit to him, he was there to cover it, but that could have. They then get the subsequent penalty. They kick that, they win the game, Castleford. So you could sense the relief with him kicking that drop goal that he managed to rectify that mistake and actually get him the 2 points.
One of the big, what I'm going to be really interested to see tonight is that man that's pictured there for Wakey. He's got a big choice here to make, hasn't he, Darryl Powell? He's brought Russell in and Truman in. Truman had a good game. Russell had a good game when he came on as well. Mason Lino, we know he's now squad number 20, and he's got experience and quality. You would expect at some point it's a Russell Truman partnership. I was surprised to see Russell on the bench last week.
Yeah, I was too, and I thought Lino had a really good game against Leeds. Apart from he got sin-binned, didn't he, in this one?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So apart from that was the only blot on his copybook for me. I thought he controlled the game really well. But obviously, Ollie Russell did come on in this one and look really good as well. So I think that was probably where Wakefield suffered last time they were in Super League. I don't think the Hearts were good enough. Now they've got these three to choose from. Obviously, having Russell and Truman coming in as new players, it gives Wakefield a bit of a different dynamic now. And we saw that against Leeds. Obviously, this for me is a bigger test for them at this stage in the season, based on the squad that Hull KR are naming there as well. It's such a strong team. So, like I say, it's so intriguing how this one's going to go tonight. I think it's the tie of the round for me.
Well, I think we're going to learn a lot about both sides. I mean, from a KR perspective, they're going to want to see a big, big improvement. Ellie Minchella in his press conference, he knows that was well below their standards of last season. But it's round one, and it's the same for all the teams we're going to discuss today. It's round one. Nobody's really 100% sure. After round two, we start to get a little bit more of a feel. It's normally 4 or 5 rounds in that we start to really understand where these teams are at. But from Wakey's perspective, brilliant, to go to Headingley, to get a win. We said they have a great record against Leeds. They managed to get the job done. This, again, is a step up. It's an absolute step up. It's last year's grand finalist. We know, look at that team. It's an incredible squad that Willie Peters has assembled. If Dreamland happens tonight and Darryl Powell snags 2 wins in 2. Wow. If you're a Wakefield Trinity fan, goes, dare I say it, Steph, you keep saying it, the blueprint of Lee and KR before them, all of a sudden people will be thinking, hang on a minute, that would be a big, big statement, wouldn't it, to beat Leeds at Headingley and then beat last year's grand finalists at home tonight.
Yeah, I think the pressure's off Wakefield. They've got that monkey off the back in terms of that first win, so that's a big tick in the box for them straight away for the season. They've got that first victory. Like I said, the improvements they've made to that stadium now, it's not there yet, but it's looking so much better. What I expect to be a sellout crowd with the travelling Hull KR fans as well. The atmosphere is going to be incredible, and it's going to be a bit of a cauldron for Hull KR to go into this, which is probably my. How can they cope with that? Because Wakefield,
they're used to doing it to other teams, aren't they, at Craven Park?
Yes, absolutely. It's so intriguing into how one's going to go. But for me, the pressure's on Hull KR a little bit for this one. They're the ones who need to improve based on last week, and if they play like they did against Castleford, I think Wakefield's attack, as Leeds saw, could really threaten them.
Yeah, I think arrogance has got no place in the league this year. I think it's a really good point that you're making there. That at the end of the day, some KR people there might scoff at that and go, "It's Wakefield Trinity." Yeah, it's Wakefield Trinity. They beat Leeds last week, and I think what they've earned is respect. And I think that what we're seeing this year, especially if it carries on the way it started, is that there's no gimmies in Super League, and you've got to go and earn the right to win it. An intriguing night. What a night this is going to be. Thursday night rugby league, always good. All right, still a school night, but you've got one foot in the weekend, haven't you? Go and enjoy yourselves. Crack open a beer and enjoy it, or a glass of wine, or whatever you fancy. Right, let's move on to the next game. This, of course, on Friday night at Halliwell Jones Stadium at 8 o'clock kickoff on Sky Sports and on Super League Plus as well. Warrington coming through a very, very decent Huddersfield Giants effort on Sunday. The Catalan Dragons, of course, completely and utterly outshone by Hull FC. Not the start that Steve McNamara would have wanted. I've been keeping a close eye on their social media. To say it's toxic in the south of France where Steve's concerned at the moment would be an understatement. He desperately needs to win this on Friday evening against the Warrington Wolves. History in Warrington's favour, 13-6 at the Halliwell Jones Stadium. But in the last 5 meetings, Catalan have won 3 out of 2. And let me tell you, they're on a 3-game winning streak. That's right. The last 3 games at the Halliwell Jones Stadium have all gone the way of the Catalan Dragons. So that's an interesting one for any Dragons fans that watch. And of course, Warrington won and Catalan lost last week. Try scored 4-1. Tackle efficiency, Warrington decent, 95.6 against the Giants, 89.2. The Catalan Dragons, they're going to want to really shore that one up. 50% conversions from Warrington, 0 from that one Artemore try. And then penalties 4-2. Not an awful lot in that at all. Warrington last year got done by Catalan, and if you remember, I think Catalan raced into an 18-0 lead. Warrington then clawed them back to an 18-12 half-time, and then in the second half, Warrington again got very close before that final try. I think it was Cesar Rouge who went in late on for the Catalan Dragons. So I think Tom Johnson had a try as well, if memory serves me right, in the second half. So it's a good hunting ground, this, for the Catalan Dragons. I think Kiri will be better for a week, for an extra week. What are they going to do with Morg? Are they going to put him back in the halves? Are they going to leave him at full back? Are they going to move that around? Because for me, I didn't think Rouget had a good game. But when they last came to Warrington, Rouget played at full back, Steph.
Yeah, and he had a really good game as well.
He did.
From memory. I would be tempted to put Morg, because Morg's done up most of his preseason. We're led to believe in the halves. So based on last week, they need to make a change, I think, and I would be tempted to make that switch and put Rouge at fullback and see how it goes, because I don't think he had a particularly good game in the halves, and Morg just needs to be settled. We all know he's such a good player, but with Catalan, the biggest thing for me is why they brought Tompkins back. I just don't understand this one, Dave, to be honest with you. With his retiring and then coming back last season for a bit, and then the knee injury again, it's obviously not right. So sometimes you better, how many Tompkins can you have?
and what it's done is it's this question mark over Artemore. Artemore, for me, we said it in Round Unpacked. I'm sure we said it in Weekly as well. That Morg needs to a place. It's almost Stefan Ratchford-esque in the fact that Ratchford, because of his versatility over the years, never really nailed down a spot. He had a long period when Brett Hodgson left at full back. He had a couple of seasons there when he had that yard of pace. I remember a full length for the HJ against Wigan all those years ago. But he has moved around a lot as Stefan Ratchford. Morg not as versatile as a like of a Ratchford, but he does need to. It's one or the other. You've got to give him either his head in the halves, or you just say, right, you are now fullback.
But you're talking about
it's not fair on the lad, is it? It's not like a seasoned pro who might be able to move here, there, and everywhere and just adapt. This is still a young lad. He needs to be given time and he needs to be given a position.
But he's one of the top 3 players.
I would argue with them.
What other team? Name another squad at the moment of a top 3 player not being able to play in his position week in, week out.
Yeah, I could agree with you. Maybe that's his temperament, though. Maybe Steve McNamara knows he can just ask what he wants of him, and he'll. Which if that is the case, fair play to the lad, because they're the kind of players you want in your squad, isn't it? But I just fear for him, really. I think for me, mate, as well. Going into this one, just from a Warrington perspective, we know that Catalan have got a lot of bulk. I mean, up front, Pangai Junior now and I thought Satai looks slimmed down. Whether that's good or not, I don't know. Sometimes you need a Patrick Mago, a Chris Satai, somebody who can only give you 20 minutes, but it's a bruising 20 minutes. Is he too lean? I don't know. But from a Warrington perspective, I think the likes of Paul Vaughan, Zane Musgrove, they need to step up. I mean, for me, I think they didn't really impose themselves at Huddersfield. We've had conversations about, is Vaughan a bit concerned over the match review panel and all that. But, Warrington are reliant on Musgrove and Vaughan. Of course, Harrison, when he returns, is a big plus for Warrington. He was arguably their best forward last season by a country mile. Yeah. But the back line looks really good. I think the back line looks good. Be interested to see if Leyland's back this week for the Warrington Wolves. I think they're okay in those spine positions. I think they're looking really good shape. Yeah. For me, the question I think a lot of Warrington fans are asking is that front row. Is that front row good enough? But then it's the same front row that caused a lot of teams problems last year. It's bonkers, really.
Yeah, and I think by his own admission, I think Paul Vaughan would say he didn't have the greatest season last year, especially when you compare that to the 2023 season where he was right up there with the best in Super League. So I think the Warrington fans will be looking for a big, season from Paul in such a crucial position where it gets Warrington on the front foot and allows the backs to be as dangerous as we all know they can be. So yeah, really intriguing this one. But if you look at Catalan's having to travel over here, they're a bit like nowhere near as bad as they were a lot worse than what OKR were, but Catalan will have a lot of things that they're looking to right, and whether they overtry it is my probably concern for them this week. And the Halliwell Jones is not the place to do that because Warrington will punish you if you do that. So again, another really intriguing game here, and we're going to find out a lot about Catalan. I think it's probably a good fixture for them to be playing one of the ones who's perceived to be a top 3 side in Super League this week. And really, if they can put a performance in, that's quite a bit of a benchmark for people who are writing them off already.
I think we find out a bit about both. I mean, you said about Lee, you've got 2 points that you didn't get last year. This would be 2 points that Warrington didn't get last year, because they lost at home to Catalan. So it really is interesting. I mean, to be fair, they were a bit of a bogey time for Warrington last year, the Catalan Dragons. So this is going to be a really interesting match, one not to be missed. Like I say, on Sky Sports and Sky Plus as well. Really, really good, interesting game. We're going to find out a lot about both sides come the end of Friday evening. Another 2 teams that we're going to find out a lot about, these two. I mean, Wigan, of course, will really be stung by what happened at the Brit community. And not just that, let's be fair, they were put through the ringer as well. I mean, they were in a right competitive game. The same can't be said for FC. So in terms of recovery this week, you would think from a physical aspect, Hull FC probably had it easier in terms of recovery because Wigan were really put up against it this early in the season. But but mentally, we know Wigan are a champion side. They're not going to let it bother them too much, and they should come out firing against Hull FC at the MKM Stadium. But again, that said, Steph, let's go through the tale and say before I bring you in. Again, really, really interesting narrative in the history of Super League. It's a great hunting ground for Wigan. 16 wins to 8. However, the last 3 matches at the MKM have all gone the way of FC. It's unbelievable to think that is the case, but it is. They've just come off the back of a win, which was a brilliant win. I mean, I'd go as far to say a classy win for round 1. Let's give, we pulled the leg of Hull FC fans last year, but let's be fair, it was worthy of pulling anybody's leg for the way that they played last year. But let's call it straight. That was classy. To go over to the Catalan Dragons, the way that Cust and Caesar bossed the game, organised the game. Caesar's kicking game was exceptional on the night. Fair play to FC. They will come into this, or they should come into this thinking, same again, boys, and we could do the champions for a 4th time in a row. They should really be up for this, Steph.
Yeah, 100%. And let's not forget, like you say, Hull FC won 3 games, I think, last season. One of those was Wigan at home.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I don't think, a much weakened. I think maybe they didn't have French.
Yeah, right? But hang on a minute. It was Wilson Phillips, mate. They held on.
But they will go into this full of confidence based on that Catalan. And I think the thing for me with Hull FC was they look fit. It looks like they've had a great pre-season. Obviously, that helps with your early round fixtures. Obviously, they've got the travel involved with coming back from Catalan and a shorter turnaround. We're going to have an extra day's rest in this one. But from what I've seen, the ticket sales are going really well at the MKM for this one, based on the victory last week, which is fantastic to see from a TV perspective and watching the game. It's going to be quite a full stadium there for this one. But yeah, and every game this week is full of intrigue. I think it's such an intriguing round. It's going to be very interesting. But if Wigan don't turn up, all FC have got a chance to turn them over, and we didn't think we'd be saying that so early in the season.
Well, I reiterate it. I think every team's got to turn up. That's what round 1 has done. That's what round 1's done for me. And we know if Salford were playing a full side, they'd have been competitive against Saints. So definitely. I think for me, it bodes well for the competition. Brilliant tries last week. You know, the first Cade Cuss one was very, very easy on the eye. That was a cracking try from Custy, it has to be said. Tackle efficiency, nothing in it. And I think that'll really please John Cartwright is how well they defended. Because let's be fair, last year, you know, it was a little bit hit and miss. But, you know, 90.2%, first game out. I think any team that's over 90, it's a decent knock. You know, if you're up around the 94s, 96s, you should be winning the game. You know, because that level of tackle efficiency, you should be getting some knock-ons. You should be forcing some errors. So I think you'll be pleased with that. The one thing, though, I would say they've got to cut out in this game. I think you can afford to have seven penalties playing Catalan Dragons and maybe still be in and around it. If you've got a penalty count 7-3 against the Wigan Warriors, that one stat alone could be the one that trips you up.
Yeah, if Wigan have territory, we would expect them to score tries. A bit like we were saying before about Rouge in the house for Catalan. Obviously, dealing with Bevan French and Smith, Harry Smith this week. So I don't think that. I think their defence is going to be tested a lot more than it was against the Dragons. So yeah, really interesting to see how that one goes. But I think it's. I just think it's great that we're talking about Hull FC with a chance in this game, whereas last season we would be, even though they won it, we would have been writing them off beforehand, wouldn't we? So it's for the competition, it's great. And let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like I said, we've only had one game against a team in Catalan which we think underperformed on the day a little bit. But yeah, really, really interesting to see how FC deal with, you know, the best side in the competition.
Yeah, well, 88% tackle efficiency last year, so it was a step in the right direction. This one for FC, going to be a great game. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. FC should go in with a lot of confidence, but hey, we are talking about the champions. I think that they will be well and truly up for this one come the weekend, and it'll be very interesting to see which way it goes.
Very, very rare they lose two on the spin, isn't it, Wigan?
Very rare. Very rare. Right, we're not going here for obvious reasons. We're not going here. This, at the time of recording, it sounds like Salford Red Devils are still not going to get any dispensation. If they don't get any dispensation, then, you know, Leeds Rhinos have the same opportunity that Saints did. And quite frankly, what we like to do here, everybody knows who watches us, we like to celebrate the great game of rugby league. So rather than talk about Salford and Leeds, let's plug the gap by reminding ourselves of the top 5 tries from round number 1.
Here's Rappenar to Lewis Martin. Now Martin's got some room to move. Ball goes inside. Chance, maybe a chance. More than a chance. It's a fantastic try. And it's Cade Cuss who gets... Giants lead by 6. Justy. This could be a penalty, I think. The arm is out from the referee. That's Lindop. Lindop striding away. Will he go himself? Is he there? He's over the line. Aaron Lindop.
Lewis are waiting directly behind the ruck. Now they peel to the left-hand side. Here is Lewis, injects into the line. Miss-out pass! And it's another flying finish. A hat-trick for Burgess. And that might just end Castleman's hopes. Now works its way into the hands of Westerman, who finds Tex Hoy. Lovely pass out the back to Rooney. Rooney's quick. Rooney with a step. And Rooney's over. And Castleford are in front. What a try from Fletcher Rooney. Beautiful sidestep. Stood Hamilton. And he's over to score. Castleford delighted. It's Hulkington Rovers 4, Castleford Tigers 8. A kick across field. Corey Hall going after it, ball batted back. Here is Tom Johnstone. Is he going to get the opening try? No! Desperate defence, he kept it in somehow. How on earth did he do that? Wakefield is still going here. They're going back down the short side with Hall. Hall gets it away. What a try! What a sensational try! Max Garrett on the end of...
Some beauties there, Steph. Some absolute beauties. The Max Jowett one. What a try. My try round one. What was yours?
Yeah, mine was Rooney. And interesting, Castleford have just announced a 4-year contract for him, which
Indeed,
is
which we discussed in full on Weekly.
so, yeah, absolutely. So yes, 2 days ago they announced.
Yes. Hey, this time traveling is a wonderful thing.
It is. But no, that was it. For a young lad, what a try that was.
Two wonderful steps.
At Hull KR as well, to do that to them is no mean feat. So well done to the young lad, and hopefully he's going to keep his place, which it sounds like he is for this week.
Yeah, outstanding. Really, really good from the kid. Right, again, really interesting game. This one, Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff. Oh, Saturday night fair. Wonderful stuff. Outstanding. Castleford taking on Saturday. Again, in the same vein, Castleford should go into this. I mean, people would say, oh, God, Saints have just hammered Salford. We've got to take into account who they played. This is St. Helens' first proper hit out of the season. We're going to see. And don't get me wrong, I think most people will have Saints as favourite, but I think we're going to see Saints tested to a degree. And I think, let's not for 1 minute write Castleford off. You just never, ever know. Saints have got a 3-game winning streak, though, at the Jungle. Last year, 60 points to 4. That hurt back in the day. And you can see there, as a hunting ground goes, 21 wins to 9 at the Jungle. For the Saints, they won't be too worried about that. Yes, it's a loss for KR in the first round, but that was a very, very impressive loss. Simple win for Saints. I mean, look at the stats from the first round: 15 tries to 3, no surprise there. Tackle efficiency, no surprise there, 96.8. I would be disappointed if it wasn't. Penalties, though, that's the one for me. The penalties. 4 penalties against a young side that, let's be fair, didn't pressure St. Helens at all. So to give 4 penalties away, there's always been this little bit, hasn't there? We saw it last year, the likes of Hurrell, Percival, we've seen Knowles in the past, Batchelor, we've seen many a player go for 10, be sent off. That, for me, if I'm Paul Wellens coming out of that game at the weekend, one, I'm pleased if I didn't pick up any injuries. That's the most important. But then second, when he reflects on it, I think that indiscipline against the side that, like I say, there was no need to give penalties away. It was a cakewalk. Just enjoy your rugby. You don't need to be that silly, really. I think that's a slight concern for Saints.
Yeah, I think if there was anything, that's probably it. What they can take away from that in terms of their improvements. What I would say on the penalty front is that we all know how hostile the Jungle is. It's a bit like the South Stand at Leeds and at Craven Park as well. They will be, calling for offsides and all that kind of thing. So if Saints aren't on the money with the discipline, then we could see a penalty count going against them. But again, another fascinating fixture, this one, in terms of with Saints having that bit of a cakewalk against Salford. Castleford probably a bit more battle-hardened and up to speed a little bit more with Super League based on that performance at KR. So, like you say, I think most people will have Saints as favourites in this one. But we all know how tough of a place it can be if you're complacent. So Saints can't rest on the laurels by any means, and they'll be looking to build on some of those performances, particularly Tristan Saylor. I think it's going to be a good benchmark for us as fans of the game to really see him against a decent Super League opposition to see how good he actually is. But based on what he did against Salford, there's some definite exciting prospect there.
Yeah, statistically, Saints, again, really hard to read. When was the last time you saw 10 out of the 17 starting players get over 100 metres for a side? Yeah. That just tells you everything you need to know. It was an absolute cakewalk. They kept the ball alive. Walmsley 4 offloads on the day. Wellesby did a couple as well. As I think it was about at least 7 or 8 players that threw the ball around on the day. It was an easy game, and you're right. We really don't know. We don't know. That was like the Harlem Globetrotters taking on, I don't know, a junior high school team. Yeah. You can't read into it, but we'll be able to read into both teams. I think what stands Castleford in good stead for this game is they've had 2 really tough games. That one at Bradford, they were in, mentally tough match, and then again against KR. And I think what really impressed me more than anything, the disappointment of the cup, new coach, to go and then and do that to KR, that bodes well. It bodes very well. And I think some of the new signings, Cine took his try well. I thought Simbikin at second row had a really good first game. And again, I'm going to be very interested to see how he goes in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just seeing how animated Danny was in the coach's box at KR, you could tell how much he wanted it, which was really encouraging from a Castleford perspective. I think the fans will be made up with that performance at KR, and obviously that's going to help with driving the numbers up who are going to come in and watch that. I'd expect this to be, pushing 9,000, 10,000 at Castleford Saturday night, 8 o'clock under the lights. It's going to be a bit of a cauldron, which all bodes well for the game and how exciting it's going to be. But yeah, if Saints don't turn up, they could get punished in this one.
They could do. And of course, as Captain Run goes on through the season, we will build on the stats side of it. At the moment, it's too early in the piece to be getting into real detail in terms of, packs against packs, etc. We need a couple of weeks for that to settle down. But once we probably get to about round 6, we'll probably break this down even more and really try and get an understanding of where can a game be won and lost. Is it on the edges? If so, which side, left, right? What's the battle down the middle going to be? Who's the key players and all that kind of good stuff. So that is coming on Captain's Run. But at the minute, we're only in round 2. We've just got to feel our way into it. But trust me, the analysis will go up a gear as we start to get into round 4 and 5. It'll be very interesting to see how we start to unwrap these games. Is that not unwrap? No, we unwrap on a Monday. How we actually preview these games going forward. Right, okay. Then we come to a brilliant match on Sunday, a 2:30 kickoff at the Leigh Sports Village. This is on the BBC at last. This should be a good game. So the BBC hopefully will be very happy this week when this one comes to town. Should be a belter. Leigh will be flying high. Let's be crystal clear. But of course, the really bad news from Leigh, that Josh Charnley is going to be missing for 4 weeks. Of course, they've already got Darnell McIntosh out. I'm probably going to take the word out of your mouth here. Rise, Mr. Bailey Hodgson.
We will see. But yeah, it's definitely a loss for Leigh, but one where I think we have got pretty decent cover based on the pre-season. Bailey did a great job when he's played it. I thought Keenan Brand did a superb job as well. At Wigan, he didn't look out of place. Made some great cover tackles, particularly on Jai Field with that 3-on-1 overlap. Really good read from Brand. You could argue Field misread it, but you can only do your job, can't you, in that one? So yeah, definite. But I think what people need to remember, Leigh were red hot favourites to win this fixture early. I think it was round 1 last year, wasn't it? Yeah. And Huddersfield turned up and beat Leigh. So based on Huddersfield's performance against Warrington at the weekend, Leigh again need to be on it in this one, and particularly Lola here. Tom Burgess, I thought, had a really good game for them at the weekend as well. And Woodvale, is it? What's the hooker called?
Wolford and Greenwood. Greenwood had a belting game.
Greenwood had a really good game.
A really good game. Yeah. And the interesting thing there, Steph, in terms of let's just remind people, last year at the LSV, on aggregate, Huddersfield won by 4 points.
Yeah,
that's interesting. The first game, Giants win 16-8. Second game, it was 2016 to Leigh. So they won on aggregate those 2 games. So you're right. And I think we both agree, based on round 1, a stronger Huddersfield is on its way than last year to the Leigh Sports Village, based on round 1.
Yep.
I know, 92.8. I want to go to tackle efficiency first. Again, another 2.7% increase. We know that Huddersfield had problems last season. Game 1 versus last year's average, up 2.7%. That'll please Luke Robinson. Has to please him, no doubt. 3-3 they go into this at the LSV. So that's where they're at in terms of head-to-head. 3-2 up in the last 5 for the Leigh Leopards. Again, like we said earlier with Castleford, there was no shame in that loss to Warrington. They were right in that game. It was an acceptable loss. I mean, as any fan, if your team goes down in an arm wrestle, you can live with that. There was a lot of positives on the day for Huddersfield Giants. Real positives in that game. Lee at 88.4. It's only round one. But again, defence wins games. He'll want to see better tackle efficiency than that, won't he, Adrian?
Yeah, I think we mentioned this in one of the other shows, but I think a lot of those were Gaz O'Brien being targeted. He missed quite a lot of tackles in this one, but luckily we had good cover defence for any breaks that were made. So I think Lee's scramble defence was excellent against Wigan. They will definitely be looking to up that, but I think you've also got to look at when you've got Bevan French and Jai Field, that probably makes anyone's tackle efficiency drop a little bit, and in Sember as well for his tackle busts with that as well. I think we should have it a bit easier on that front this week, but I think the key stat that jumps out off the page there, Dave, is the penalties, like we've highlighted in previous games. If Huddersfield come and give a big penalty count out, then I think they could be in for a tough day at the office. But I think the pressure on this one is pretty much on Lee, because yes, they were excellent against Wigan, but there was a lot of passion. It was a local derby. They would have wanted to set a benchmark out against a team that we've never beaten in the Leopards era. It's maybe a bit of a come down this week. So they'll need to be just as up for it. Otherwise, Huddersfield have got the potential, based on what we saw on Sunday, to potentially cause an upset here.
Yeah, I think you're right with the penalties. You can't have a 7-1. That's going to cause you a lot of unrest. And of course, if you was to win this again, that's 4 points that you didn't get last year. At the same period, because let's not forget the Wigan game should have been the second game in the season. So of course that was delayed till later in the campaign. So from a Lee perspective, I said this to you at Huddersfield. About winning at this type of the season. Form and extravagance and all those things, they can come. You don't want to be peaking rounds 1 and 2. It's about getting points on the board. But, if, Lee put on a decent performance, get a win here, they've just beaten Wigan. All of a sudden, all this, dare I say, tempering of the water that Lee have been doing in terms of, look, we've got a new side, new signings, etc. All of a sudden, expectation will start to creep in, because, I appreciate they're all still new, but to be 4 points better off after 2 games, 2 wins, that has to bring expectation, surely.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair to pundits or whatever, nobody knows what's going to happen. And I think you've got to trust in the recruitment process of your club, that you are bringing in quality additions. I more than anybody have been cautious with my predictions about Lee this season, because they are, a lot of them were unknown players. I think the only one we really knew about was Isaac Lewitt, in terms of a seasoned professional who's done pretty much everything in the game. But really, I think the Lee fans will be delighted with how those new boys have gone. But it's only one game. They need to do it consistently, and we need to see, as good as David Armstrong was, Wigan did deal with him, so we need to see probably a bit more from him this week against a team that would be perceived as weaker opposition. So again, some really interesting matchups in this game, and it'll be interesting to see if them new signings can back it up.
All I would say is that when Steph did his prediction, not since Joe Burgess have we seen anything like it. 9th, behave yourself.
Eighth, I have Lee.
Was it 8th? Well, even so, I'm not having that. I'm not having that at all. Talk about, I'll just put him down there so that I can bask in the glory later in the season. Unbelievable. I'm telling you, you're in the melting pot. Nothing but 6th or above is good enough for the Lee Leopards this year.
You had him 7th. You had him 7th.
Doesn't matter. Actually, I had them 7th when Salford. I thought Salford were going to be full strength based on what happened. I would now put them 6th over Salford. So actually, again, that's caught us all out in terms of the predictions. I think all of us would probably want our time again with regards to that. But if I was doing my predictions now, Salford would not be 6th. It would be Lee. Lee would be the team I put in 6th. No doubt about it. Right, wonderful stuff. Look, a little bit of a journey through the games. Hopefully you've enjoyed that chat. And of course, it's time once again for this.
Are you sick and tired of winning your bets every week? Want to contribute to the bookies' Christmas party? The bets to ignore when predicting the score. ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Bet Steph.
So time once again for Bet Steph. Take it away, Steph. Where's the value this week?
Yeah, so obviously we went through the accumulator in terms of the handicap betting on weekly. So I think they're showing on the screen the fivefold there. So I'll not go through those ones, but the try scores, obviously because it's pre-recorded, we've not got the odds unfortunately yet for this one either. But I have picked out David Armstrong, as we just mentioned in the lead piece there. I'm pretty confident he's going to get a try this week. I've also gone for Lewis Murphy, who I thought had a really good performance in that St Helens game. I'd expect him to be getting quite a lot of ball in that Castleford fixture, so I picked him as an any time. And my final one, Matt Duffy, he's just carried on from last season, hasn't he? So I think against Catalan's defence, I'm expecting him to have a good chance of getting over the line in this one as well. So that would be my three anytime try scorers for this week.
Yeah, and remind me what last week the three try scorers. What were the odds on that one? Can you remember what the odds were on those three?
Hang on a second.
I would expect it won't be a million miles off.
Yeah,
based on those three.
It was pretty.
Trying to remember what it was.
It was 20. I had David Armstrong, obviously Lee didn't score, so that's why I picked him again this week. I had Kotrick, who didn't get a score, but to be fair, and Kotrick came in as a late thing because I had actually picked Toby King, but you told me that he wasn't playing, and then he ended up playing. And he scored.
On good authority. On good authority. I didn't think he was playing.
So yeah, but obviously I'd still lost because Armstrong didn't score, but Peter Hickey did. So that one was 23.75 to 1.
So I think the fact that you've got a winger and two fullbacks will probably be a little bit less. I think the Hickey one probably put you a little bit up. But Lewis Murphy for me, what a joy it is for that young man to have Percival on his inside. He should have a bath this year. He really should. He should have a bath on that side.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. And of course, for the eagle-eyed amongst you, as we said on weekly, no Salford leads, a fivefold, not a sixfold. All bets are off at the moment where Salford are concerned. That's another captain's run done and dusted. Some wonderful rugby league, I'm sure, is about to unfold. It starts in just over, where are we now? Just over an hour's time when Wakefield will get their first game back in Super League at home. The atmosphere should be white hot. It's going to be outstanding rugby league football. Plenty of fare right the way through the weekend. You can guarantee one thing, Steph and I'll be watching and we'll be good to go for a round unpacked 6 p.m. Monday. You can't beat a bit of round unpacked. That's a brilliant new addition. Thanks everybody for their warm comments on that last week. We're so delighted that you enjoyed that. We will be back for Captain's Run round 3 in a week's time. But on behalf of myself and on behalf of Steph, enjoy rugby league and we'll see you next week.
See you later.